जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय 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 जय राम श्री राम जय राम
श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम
जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम ओम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम 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 ओम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम श्री राम जय
Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram 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 Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Hari Om to everybody. Pranam, pranam, pranam. So what is to be shared today?
Steady mind.
steady mind
लक्ष्य सुख उद्देश्य.
We all have understood how to steady our mind, but we don't know. In our life, there have been many instances where, by right from morning till evening, wherever the mind is steady, it gets focused. And the priority is shifted there, no dilution takes place. Only when the time comes for our labeled spiritual practices, we normally raise this question. Think about it. Suppose we do our household duties, or when we go to the office, when we start doing it, if our mind is not steady, we will not be able to do anything. Even to draft a letter, to respond a letter, to give shape to a project that we have been asked to bring out. when we deal with the problems when in the administration. Think about it. When somebody comes and says, one colleague comes and says some problem, we totally get focused on it, we apply our mind, and based upon the previous experience, we interact, we react. So it is not a new thing for us, steadiness. But when we are in this labeled spiritual exercise, we lose this. We find it difficult to steady the mind. So we start analyzing now, why is it so? Up to this it is clear, na? Steadiness is the mind all of us do, all of us have. When we are dealing with everything, that is why when people say you have been successful, when we cook, when we serve, when we clean the vessels, when we clean everything in the household, put it in the proper order, if our mind is not steady, do you think anything can be got done? In office, while talking, while writing, by handling, by anything, if there is no steadiness of the mind, will we be able to do it successfully? Initially, until we gain experience, there will be lapses. And when somebody points out, we again concentrate upon it. And the amount of success the feeling of success comes only when we have, to a very great extent, been able to steady the mind. But when it comes to the labeled spiritual exercises like dhyan, like chanting, we fail then we have to analyze now, why is it so? One reason could be we are not very clear about what we are doing. So suppose when the Nama chanting, the mind is not steady. We are not, there is a superficial knowledge in us that we are chanting the name of Lord, who is within, who is making us to chant. Still we have not gone deep into it, so the mind is not steady. It will go here and there. So now we remember, that is why Papa used the word manana, reflective and be contemplative. In whatever we do, through that probably we may be able to steady the mind. This is something which we have to try. Each one has to try. There is no general prescription here. That means when suppose we are trying to bring out a small booklet, and when we are concentrating upon it to bring it out in a comprehensive way, automatically the steadiness is there, otherwise it will not come in the form of a book. So first rough cut, comes only when the steadiness is there, then you keep on polishing it, fine-tuning it, and you find mysteriously he is providing what will be more appropriate. Then you consult somebody, they also pull in their effort, and all these things. The fine-tuning, first job comes, you watch. When we read Papa's first, anything first, we steadily apply it and try to absorb the words of wisdom. If our mind is automatically, if the mind is not steady, we will not be able to pursue. So probably the question, how to steady the mind, probably we can put that it comes out of our commitment, it comes out of our in Papa's words, fixed resolve. Suppose, from our experience, we can say, suppose a particular word comes in English, it automatically comes. And when we put it to know whether it is right or wrong, what does it mean? Immediately we go to the Google Baba and then put meaning of that. So just now we had the primordial intelligence, for example. When the Lord says in the Bhagavad Gita, Bijam mam sarvabhutanam viddhipata sanadana buddhir buddhivatam asmi. So I am the intelligence of the intellect. It is not the intelligence that we now know as intelligence. Here what is meant is the primordial intelligence. That means when there was no specs in the world, he in the form of the primordial intelligence made somebody to think about something that will improve my vision. No? And then started first one note, how to improving the vision. It is original. When somebody saw the first paddy, first person who saw the paddy, it was not named as paddy, but we can only convey through that, no. Because it is a gift of God, gift of the Almighty, because causeless cause, because we know now that one paddy comes out from a seed of paddy. So we don't know the seed. So here he says, Bijam Mam Sarva, I am the eternal seed of everything. Okay, so he came out in the form of a paddy. But a person looking at the paddy, he should get that inquisitiveness, or what do you call that, probing nature. If he just see and goes, no. But this particular person whom we don't know, but we are all enjoying the rice, to him, what struck that I should take out the husk from it? Because there is no precedence. If there is a precedent, we can say yes. There is no precedence. So that is what is called, that is what is meant by primordial. So when the word comes primordial, to check up that we go to the dictionary, or in our case nowadays we don't refer to dictionary, we go to Google Baba. He is ready to help us. So he says the first intelligence. So all these are the outcome of steadiness. That means that a commitment is there to understand, to express it as much with clarity as much as possible. Similarly, when we take to the labeled spiritual experience, why we say labeled spiritual experience? Because we have not yet reached a stage to convert or transform all our activities as sadhana. Ultimately, we have to reach a stage where even this very word, this talk, this language, everything is a part of our sadhana. Until we reach that stage, we follow certain forms which are called the sadhana. So now, but later on we will find everything is a part of sadhana. All my thoughts, all my words, all my deeds are part of a sadhana. Until we reach that, we say it's a labeled spiritual experience, spiritual disciplines. So when we take up that labeled spiritual disciplines like Nam Seva Dhyan, if we don't have clarity, the mind will not be steady. Because the commitment does not become full, When we go through the biographies of the Bhaktottamas, yesterday we were trying to read a few of Purandara dasa. How the Chinna Nayakanar, Chinna Naikana. China Naikana. Ah. Huh? No, Srinivasa Nayakar is father. Srinivasa Nayakar's son, Chinna Nayakar. Oh, you see that? Ah. How he transformed himself into dasar. Who's dasar? Purandaras. So the entire concentrated steadiness was applied on that and got it. Nothing else.
Srinivasa Nayaka.
Srinivasa Nayaka's son.
But in the Wikipedia they have given he is Srinivasa.
No. Yesterday we saw. Srinivasa Nayakar is the father. His son is called Chinna Nayakar or something. Anyway, forget about it. Why break? I thought it will be easy for you. Whether it is Srinivasa Nayakar or Chinna Nayakar, that is not the point of our concentration. Our point of concentration is the transformation that took place in the life of that Chinna Nayakar, who was not having any iota of bhakti in him. He was 100% commercial. Me and mine only. Wanted to earn money, no other consideration. But one fine morning, when God decided to make him know the real assignment he has been given through that birth, one spot, and he did not lose the steadiness at all. Amazing when we go through the history of is this thing. 4 lakhs and odd compositions. 800 years back, 800 years back in Karnataka, near Tirthalli, he was born, and the transformation took place in him. He lived for nearly 80 years. So minus this 25 or 30, where he would not have applied his mind at all. In the rest of the 30, 40 years, you can imagine 4 lakhs and odd composition. He is called the Pitamaha. He is the grandsire of carnatic music. When you say grandsire of carnatic music, we feel even the ragas, talas, what a supreme intelligence came out from him. And even now, 800 years after, if you hear the one Purandara dasa's one composition, it is fresh. Harismarane Madu Nirantara. Namasmarana Madu Nirantara. Just imagine 800 years back it was composed, but still when you hear it, you must have heard it many a time. Fresh. So now we understand the steadiness means total involvement, whole-souled involvement, unshakable involvement in whatever God makes us to pursue. Normally we take it as concentration, absorption, assimilation, a reflection, whatever you name. Ultimately, it is the steadiness of the mind. A flickering mind can never bring out all these things. All that you see that we are using, even the language, you just imagine. When the alphabets were brought out, he did not stop with the alphabets. And even today, when we draft out a letter, when we say something, if it is not in line with the grammar rules, immediately we change, unknowingly. We don't say, I is talking, I am talking. So all these are products of what? Steadiness. So this is how we feel. It can be interpreted in any way. So steadiness means we understand now that when we have a total commitment to any ideal, that comes out in the form of steadiness. Even when we fail, what is it that makes us to persevere? To patiently try again and again? Steadiness. So in this matter, because this is a subjective science, unlike the objective science, it is very difficult. That is why in rest of the things we are, more or less we have got this steadiness, but in the labeled spiritual exercises or disciplines, we find it little difficult. Because the clarity is yet to come, and the clarity, we have been objectifying everything. Even God also we are. So naturally it will shake. It will not be whole-souled. When we keep on chanting, suddenly the mind will go to something else because it is not rooted. It is not rooted in the core. That is why repeatedly we have to keep on hammering. One particular portion today we would like to read. Probably it might give us some clues. The question was asked, Papa, when you were in sadhana days, you were undergoing fasting and such other forms of discipline as prompted by Ram. Did he feel the pangs of hunger, thirst, etc.? Papa, it is necessary to make it clear now how Ramdas received orders from Ram. It was not any verbal order from him. Every impulse that arose in him was coming from Ram. So whenever there was an urge for fasting, he took it as divine command. On an impulse to sit down, he did so. That was taken as the command of Ram. Nobody from outside gave him instruction. When the impulse for fasting came, he felt very happy. In the beginning of the fast, Ramdas felt some hunger, but it did not cause suffering. While fasting, by the power of Nam, first the body became light and then the body idea was lost. Fasting helped him that way. Although there was slight pinch of hunger in the beginning, later on there was no such feeling at all. Sometime during the course of his fast, Ramdas would be present at feasts and he never felt any craving for food. All are hearing, enough?
Yes,
When the food was offered to him, he had no inclination to take it. When the impulse came to break the fast, he broke it. He did not know beforehand when he was to begin the fast or break it. At a particular moment, the impulse would come and Ramdas would act upon. There was no planning at all. There was in him no sankalpa or vikalpa. Sankalpa is the process of planning for the future. Vikalpa is the feeling born of the pairs of opposites. When ego is not there, the mind is still. A pure or still mind is Atman. You cannot call it mind. The mind which was egoistic had disappeared. The eternal, all-pervading Atman alone is there. It is better not to make any plans. If at all you make any plans, make them subject to God's will. Otherwise, when you fail, the reaction on you will be bad. Suppose you make a promise that you would do such and such a thing, you are unable to keep it up, you feel depressed. It is not in our power to know what is to happen the next moment. Therefore, whenever you have to give a word of promise, say, God willing, I will do it. It is all in the hands of God. So the so-called success and failure, good and evil, sin and virtue, everything should be dedicated to God. Then you are free. You make plans because you are in the clutches of the ego. Sri Siddharudha of Hubli was often in the habit of saying, Gurunath's will. While Ramdas was in his ashram, he was watching the Swamiji. A Pandit was daily reading Puranas to the assembled devotees before Sri Siddharudha. One day before he took his seat there, He had sent somebody to the town on some important business for the ashram. In the middle of the reading, the man who returned from the town came and whispered in Swamiji's ears, Appa, what you told me could not be done. Ramdas could hear this whisper. Swamiji simply remarked, Gurunath's will, and kept quiet. With that remark, in an instant, he dismissed the matter. It is common knowledge your mind gets disturbed over trivialities, but matters of vital importance thoroughly upset your mind, but you cannot brush them aside as Ram's will because there is no spirit of surrender in you. Your mind returns to it again and again. In real surrender, the mere thought of God's will set your mind at rest. So some will remain quite undisturbed without even saying God's will. But if they express it, others can learn a lesson in calm resignation. Ramdas thinks Sri Siddhartha uttered those words, God's will, with that idea. There can be no elation or depression when the mind is in a state of surrender. That is the state of Dandvadita, changeless, static, eternal, serene, peaceful. That is your being. When you know it, you are free. On the surface, there may be some ripples, but there will be none in the depths. People who have found out the depths people who have not found the depths lose their balance. In the case of a liberated soul, any disturbance that comes passes quickly, for he is established in perfect equanimity by realization of the self. He is called alipta. Again we repeat, in spiritual matters it is difficult to steady the mind initially because it is a subjective subject, not an objective subject. Subjective subject cannot conceive beyond certain level. Something approximating to the subject can only be conceived. The real thing cannot be conceived. So there will not be clarity. So because there is no clarity, the steadiness will not be there. So it is a struggle. So the steadiness in spiritual matters is the outcome of the process. Just like what Papa said now, God's will, God's will, God's will, God's will. Every time we try to repeat to ourselves. Even in small matters, he says, it is better not to make any plans. If at all you make plans, make them subject to God's will. Otherwise, when you fail, the reaction on you will be bad. That means floating on the surface will not help in spiritual matters. We still remember when we used to attend the lectures, some words we may be hearing it for the first time. So the contextual meaning we will have grasp. But later on, if we are very committed, we will remember that word, come out of it, and then refer to the dictionary, and then find out the meaning of it. Then only know, oh, this is what he meant. If we just leave it like that, your contextual meaning is your own interpretation. Might be right, it can also be wrong. So our steadiness, our commitment to the ideal makes us to bring all these. So we can put it like this: the moment we are committed to the ideal of plunging more and more within, that will definitely help us to have steadiness of the mind. Yes, now we remember when our mother used to ask us to churn the curd, every now and then she will make us to sit in a place where everything is there. Not to today's churning, primordial churning, like this, I don't know what to call it. The churning material will be tied, it is tied to a stem, and then we do like this. But she will come and say, look inside, whether the butter is getting formed. And the moment it is formed, then we stop the churning, and with that wooden this thing, we try to consolidate, make them join together, without applying our hand. And then finally it comes in the form of a ball, and then we take it out, then you put it in the water, nothing will happen. So mother was teaching us about the steadiness there, no? So suppose I think about something and do this churning business, what will happen? So fixed resolve, yes. Steadiness comes when there is movement. It's a wonderful point that was raised, because it touches and kindles so many things in us. It gets more and more clearer and clearer. Because it is a subjective, we find it difficult to get fixity, because mind always thinks everything as an object. Mind can think only on an object, Mind can never think on the subject. But the mind which is used to this objectifying, if there is a word, it tries to apply the same method for this subjective subject. It will naturally fail. In Kirtanas, yes, now we remember that. In Kirtanas, he says, for example, he says, Shrodasya Shrotram Manaso Mano Yad Vachoha Vacham Sa Pranasya Pranaha Chakshusha Chakshuhu Adimucha Dhira. He says, the preceptor says, it is the ear of the ear, mind of the mind, speech of the speech. He is also the prana of the prana, the eye of the eye. Knowing thus, the wise having relinquished all false identification of the self, with the senses become immortal when departed from the world. Now suppose we read this and we just go. But suppose we stop.
Sanskrit version, please. Sanskrit version.
Pardon?
Sanskrit version.
Swamiji said, can you read once again?
Shrodasya Shrotram, Shrotrasya Shrotram, Manaso Mano Yad, Vachoha Vacham, Sau Pranasya Pranaha, Chakshusha Chakshuhu, Adimucha Dhiraha, Pret Yasmad Logat Amrita Bhavanti. Because we have not learned Sanskrit, but we remember. Don't worry, no. You just hear again, don't get stuck. We are only telling it as an example. So when we hear this, we start applying. Ear of the ear means what? How can this ear can have a ear like this? It is not possible. So what he said is the hearing capacity of the ear, which is a subjective subject.
Yes.
So how can he express? Only he can express in the form in which we can understand. Eye of the eye. The power behind, the power of seeing behind the eye. It can't be expressed. It is a subjective subject. But he tries to put it in this way. And later on, probably to make it more clear, what none can comprehend with the mind, but by which the mind is comprehended, know that alone as Brahman. What none can see with the eyes, but by which one sees the function of the eyes, know that alone is Brahman. Only in this way it can be expressed, Because being a subjective subject, it has got limitation. Our mind is trained to express anything that is an object. In other words, anything that is knowable, that can be expressed. But here it is the knowing principle. So that is why in spiritual efforts, sadhana, we find the mind not getting steady. Because the mind is trying to apply its usual norms of understanding everything as an object, whereas this is the very subject. So only through contemplation it can be done. If we keep on hammering this, probably the mind will become steady, and instead of trying to get clarity from the knowables, it tries to go to the source, which is past expression, which cannot be brought within the ambit of thought. What none can hear by the ears, but by which the hearing is perceived, know that alone is Brahman. What none can breathe, but by which the breath is directed to know, that alone is Brahman. Anything, from the objective realm, it is brought to the subjective realm. Beyond that, they cannot. So in the first part of the Kenopanishad, this has been told. In every day in our ashram, we read peace prayer. Why is it that in spite of that we were not able to understand? Religiously we repeat, adorable presence, thou who art within and without, above and below and all around, thou who is interpenetrating the very cells of our being. Bas, stop. If I don't stop there, how will I understand this? That power which enters into the cells, if we don't reflect, how can we know that? And what is the next one? Interpenetrating the very cells of our being. It is the thou who art the eye of our eyes. But stop. Thou who art the eye of our eyes. If we don't stop there and try to go within, it will be a mere superficial, surface level repetition. Thou who art the eye of our eyes, ear of our ear. Think. Why the question raised was steadiness, how to make the mind steady. So in all our vyavaharic dealings, we have got the clues how to steady the mind. So there, one thing we have learned now from experience, wherever there is a commitment, steadiness comes. Fixed resolve. So the commitment or fixed resolve makes us to become steady gradually. Initially we may not. While drafting the first letter, we commit mistake. Second, third, fourth, then we can easily write. Anything that we do, we have been asked to do. First, we may commit some mistake. When the steadiness comes, it becomes nil mistake. All those things we know very well. All of us know very well. All of us have been doing it. While we cook, suppose we think about something else, it will not become palatable because you add more salt, you add more spicy. Suppose you don't mix the ingredients at the appropriate time. Certain things will get boiled easily, certain things will not get boiled easily. So we first boil that one which cannot be done, which takes a lot of time, and then we mix it with the one which, like that, no? Certain vegetables, easily it can be boiled, certain will not. So all those things we learn from experience. Once or twice we may commit some mistakes. All those things come because our commitment is there. I should make it perfect. I should make it perfect. I should make it perfect. But that cannot be applied with the same mind. If we apply it, that is necessary, but the same mind which has acquired the steadiness from the data collected from outside. Somebody would have told us, suppose we are preparing upma, how much rava we should, how many measures rava we should put, and how many measure of water we should. Otherwise, we have to drink upma. It will not become upma. So that means, first we will commit that mistake, one or two. Then we know. We will ask somebody. They will tell us. If it is roasted four times of water should be there. Then only it will get boiled. If it is not roasted, just a double. So all those things, we learn when we commit mistake. Because of our steadiness to make it, we ask those who have mastered it, and it gets registered. We try, we experience, it becomes steady for us. This is what we have done. But the same thing we find it difficult in spiritual disciplines because this is a subjective subject. Here one's own effort to go within deeply is necessary.
And this trial and error method can be adopted in subjective way?
Trial and error method can be adopted in this subject.
We have to do something, plead, appeal, cry. So that word comes, ultimately the steadiness will come when we have surrendered. Because the objective mind should disappear, The mind which is always concentrating on the objective, what do you call it? It is not subjective. When the mind stops concentrating on it in the usual way of bringing the object before it and trying to understand the object, here it cannot be brought at all because it is the very, very power that makes us to take up this. That simple Kenopanishad, you can think about it. How am I seeing? What is it that makes me to see? What is it that makes my eyes to see? But with that eyes, I cannot see that. Upanishad says, no, that is Brahman. So every day, probably, that is why Puja Mataji would have included this, that we should all become introvert, reflective, contemplative. That is why it was included, but we did not take it seriously. But religiously we read it out every day. At least one day it should strike to us, I am reading it, what is the meaning of this? The general idea is there that God is beyond all these things. But that is not enough. Eye of the eye, ear of the ear, mind of the mind, heart, breath of the breath, soul of our souls, India. Where am I? Heart of our heart. Heart we have learned through science, no. When we went to the school, we have learnt about, we have seen it. Outside, some replica, they bring it out. And nowadays, Google Baba is giving everything now. But heart of the heart means what? That which makes the heart to function, the pulsating force behind the heart vibration. If it stops, I am dead. So, Omkarji Maharaj, by drafting it, what a beautiful prayer that. Heart of the hearts. That which makes my heart to vibrate, beat, pulse beat. I know that I am not doing anything for that. Neither I can order it to stop, nor I can order it to speed up. What are you doing? Only 60 is there now. It should be 70. If we say like that, will it do that? No. We have no role. The present me and mind in us, the mind has no role at all. So what is the power that pulsates the heart to beat, heartbeat? So Puja Mataji wanted every day do some thinking, some reflection on the indwelling reality God. We did not understand, we followed. But now that following her has now made us to think about it. Because now we find the same word in Kenopanishad. We may learn it as a text. Academically, we may be able to reproduce. But we remember this was a tough subject. It was taken up. Very difficult for us to understand. There was one more sloga. Even today it is very difficult to understand, even after going through it many a times. Nahamanye suvedeti nona vedeti vetacha. First line. I do not think that I know it well, nor do I think that I know it not. He among us knows it truly, who knows this, namely, nor do I know that I know it not. Nobody can understand a word of it. So many I, so many K-N-O-W, so many not. I do not think that I know it well. Not that I do not know, I know too. This is how Swamiji explained. Even then, so we wrote it down, when we were back, again and again and again and again and again. Because it's only to us that it's a jugglery of words. He among us knows it truly, who knows this. So you now remember the intelligence of the Maharshis. They bring out this complicated thing so that from the complication we try to make it simplify. This can be done only through manana. Outwardly it appears as completely complicated, complex sense. We will not be able to understand anything. Why did they do that? Because it cannot be expressed in any way. So if you are earnest about it, you will start going deeply into it and then try to find out the meaning, which cannot be expressed. Same thing Papa has asked us to do. Be reflective. He keeps on telling, we have forgotten that. We were carrying on with whatever we are doing it. But he wants us to become reflective. Seek guidance always from within. If what Ramdas says is in agreement with your inner voice, follow it. Don't accept Ramdas' suggestion without a sanction from within. Because if we rely, it's an objective analysis. It doesn't become a subjective inquiry. So here he says, don't accept Ramdas' suggestion without a sanction from within. The more a man becomes reflective and meditative, the nearer he approaches the true springs of life. Bluntly, he has mentioned. For a serious sadhaka, the following words of Papa throw more light on the above theme. Seek guidance always from within means what? Be reflective. You cannot get anything from outside. So when we pursue, automatically the steadiness comes, otherwise it will not become steady. The moment I start going in, suppose the mind thinks about something else, I will not be able to do it. So my commitment to know this should be there. That is the one leverage he has given to us. Be persevering, be committed. You may fail 100 times, doesn't matter. One day, the other day we read, one day the Hridaya Grandhi will break and you will see that. So don't accept Ramdas' suggestion without a sanction from within. The more a man becomes reflective and meditative, the nearer he approaches the true springs of life. He is teaching us every day, but we should know that he is teaching us. When we were thinking about the source of all sources, every time only this particular sloga comes into our mind. Which one? Bijammam Sarvabhutana. But when he made us to go through the whole, we found, how many are there? 10. How many were there?
10.
10. 10 slogas came. There may be so many. At least from 1 to 10 we were able to. How does it come? With that bhavana, when we go through the Gita, steadiness, there is a commitment, an internal commitment. Is there anything more? Is there anything more? Is there anything more? So the commitment drives us. And he is placing it before us. But he just watches whether there is a steadiness in your attempt or vacillating. It's all right. If you have already prioritized, it will actually, and you get thrilled the way in which how he reveals. Seventh chapter, sloga number 6, 9, 10. Sloga number 9, 18. Sloga number 10, chapter number 10, sorry, I said chapter, no? Chapter number 10, sloga 22, 32, 39. Chapter number 14, 3 and 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10, one from one shloka, we were able to get more and more clarity through 10 slokas instead of one.
Swamiji, brief repetition.
Eh?
Brief repetition of the sloka.
Which one?
Sloka, sir.
Slokas.
Slokas.
Which sloka?
Now Swamiji has said.
No, what else?
Swamiji
Chapter
has
this
said
and
that
sloka that.
Chapter and sloka.
Acha. I will read out. We have not put it in order. Chapter 7,
Yes?
sloka number 6. Etat yonini bhutani sarvani tyupadharayah aham krishnasya jagata prabhava pralayasthatha. Then 8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarva pravartate idi matva bhajante mam udva bhava samanvita. Then comes 10. Bijam mam sarvabhudanam viddhi partha sanadanam buddhir buddhivatamasmi tejas tejasminamaham. Then 9th.
18th.
No, 9 only, one. 9 only 18. Gadir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi Nivasa Sharanam Suhrud Prabhava Pralayasthanam Nidanam Bijam Abhyayam. Then in 10 slokas, 10, 9, 10. 10, I think,
10th chapter.
10th chapter, 8th sloka. Aham Sarvasya Prabhavo. We have covered that, no? We have covered that, okay. Now we want 14. In 14th chapter, Mama Yonir Mahad Brahma Tasmin Garbham Dadamyaham Swabhava Sarvabhudhanam Sambhava Sarvabhudhanam Tato Bhavati Bharata. Then he says Sarvayonishu Kaunteya Murteya Sambhavantiya Tasam Brahma Mahad Yoni Aham Bija Pratapida. Then we have also taken, apart from source, the source also expresses in the form of Chetana, consciousness. So that is why this sloka comes. Vedanam Samavedosmi, Devanam Asmi Vasava, Indriyanam Manashasmi, Bhudanam Asmi Chetana. I am the Samaveda among the Vedas, Indras among the celestial gods, among the senses I am the mind, among the living beings I am consciousness. So the source of all sources is expressed in the form of consciousness. And he says, Bijam Mam Sarva Bhudanam, no? I am the life force. Somewhere it comes. Huh? I don't know where I have put it. Anyway, it's somewhere. So when we start, the idea is, let us not get stuck with the technicalities. The idea we have found is that when we started with Bijam Mam Sarva Bhudanam, that was the starting point he told us. And he gave us a long rope, whether we are committed to plunge more deeper and get more and more clarity. If only we satisfy ourselves with one sloka, we may not have a comprehensive idea about the whole theme Lord Krishna described. So he brings it out in different slokas so that we get a comprehensive idea. It all comes from commitment. And commitment is the one which gives steadiness. Very good. This is really, we are very happy because the interactive session gives us so many clarity upon our sadhana. So let us try to, and Papa's words, we should keep on reminding, be reflective and meditative. So whatever that is going on in the ashram, let us not just copy it or read it out. Now the message Papa gives us is, be reflective. Right from Vishnu Sahasranamam, right from our solo Ramnam, right from our Guru Sthiti, right from our chorus Ramnam, right from our flower offering, right from our bhajans, right from our Ramnam, right from our Arati, like that, prayer reading. Everywhere let us go along with the ideal, represented through, symbolized through brought out through those words. They are all words, you know. An ideal is expressed through words. It may, if we don't understand and follow, some effect will be there. But the real effect, if we have to get Papa's words. Even my own words, you don't accept it unless you have an inner sanction. No Guru will say like this, but Papa is bluntly telling us. Just because I say, don't follow. Shivananji Maharaj used to say, don't do what I do, but try to emulate what. That means, you know, whatever they are persons. Unless it is sanctioned, okayed by our inner being, it will not become a part of mine. Until such time we can keep on telling that it is my Guru said, Guru said, Guru said, whether you openly said or say or not. Underneath your mind it will always be there. It does not become yours. If it has to become yours, it should come in your own way. That is why one day he prompted us to think and say, you know, prayer should be self-originated. All prayers, when they are originated, it has got its impact. Even today we were telling about that 4.5 lakhs Kirtana of Purandara. 800 years ago it was composed. Still the freshness is there because it was his original. Yes, now we remember Papa says, be the light unto yourself and in your own original way bring out the magnificence in you. In your own original way. Be highly creative. There was a board somewhere here, no?
Okay, thank you.
It is there? No. I want somewhere. Anyway, it's okay.
Painting time there. When they are painting small,
It has gone. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om
Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram
Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Hari Om to everybody. Hari Om, Hari Om. Pranam, Pranam, Pranam. Pranam, Pranam.